Today we've got a little bit of a change in perspective, that of the graduate student who will eventually make her way into a career. So I hope you enjoy hearing about her experience. Hi, Allyson. Thank you so much for joining us today. I wanted to do a slightly different version of our podcast because I think that the story that people have to tell starts with graduate school or even earlier. So I'm so glad that you were willing to join us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So you've already had a varied path when we've talked before. And so I was hoping that you could give us an introduction of what brought you to mass spectrometry.
I actually started school at Murray State in Kentucky, and I started as a nutrition major, where I had to take a brief organic chemistry course, and I learned that I really love chemistry. So I ended up transferring schools to Marian University in Indianapolis, and starting as a chemistry major there. Luckily, I had the opportunity to do some mass spectrometry imaging with one of my professors there, Dr. Patrick McVeigh. And yeah, I've kind of just there I fell in love with mass spec, and I've continued along that path since then. So
And then as a graduate student, you are part of the next generation of scientists. And I think part of what you've gone through to this point is going to influence your working style and your approach to science. So you started graduate school during COVID, isn't that right?
yeah, I started in 2021. So basically the tail end of like lockdown era.
So what were your expectations and then what was reality of being in graduate school during that time?
Yeah, so I expected grad school to be a grind. Especially during COVID, a lot of classes were hybrid or online. Luckily, I was able to start right in the fall of 2021, in the lab doing rotations. We had a total of two rotations, and I really enjoyed both of them. It was a really hard choice to choose which lab I wanted to join, but I would say reality is, yeah, it's definitely still a grind. It's just a bit different of a grind than I had originally thought, I guess. Coming from undergrad, you always think, classes, homework, a lot of writing, essays, but it's grad school is definitely a lot different than that. And I think it suits my lifestyle and my ADHD brain a bit better, actually. So thankful for that.
So tell me more about that ADHD side. I mean, I have a kid who has ADHD. You see it a lot. So
Yeah,
how are you, taking that and making it a superpower instead of a detractor?
that's a great question. ADHD is super common in science in general because we get to work a lot with our hands. Specifically in mass spectrometry, I really like that I get to work both in the lab and a lot doing data analysis on the computer. I'm constantly changing my environment, and you know, that change of environment really allows my brain to work. I'm not sitting in the same spot all day doing the same thing. Um, and when I want to, or I guess I should say when my brain wants to, I can, hyper focus on things and get a lot done in a really short amount of time. And I don't think that folks without ADHD can necessarily do that as well. So it's definitely been hard, especially with having to create my own schedule and get into a routine. I find that really difficult, but also very necessary for me. Um, but then again, I've been able to use it to my advantage over time, I'd say.
That's great. I mean, anybody who has a spicy brain, as I like to think about it, being able
Yeah,
to harness that is fantastic.
yeah, it's a time.
All right, so maybe we can switch gears. Tell me about your science. Tell me what you're actually doing and how mass spec is relevant to that.
Yeah, so I study the symbiotic relationship between the Hawaiian bobtail squid and Vibrio fischeri, in which Vibrio fischeri live inside the squid's light organ and they bioluminesce so that the squid can go hunting at night. It's a very cool relationship, in my opinion, and Vibrio fischeri is the only microorganism to live inside the squid's light organ. So I'm essentially studying the chemical communication between the bacteria and the squid, as well as the just between bacteria themselves, like quorum sensing. It's been very useful to have mass spectrometry on my side in 2024 now. Um, we do a lot of imaging in our lab, and my bacteria also produce bacterial biofilms, which are known to assist in host colonization. And those bacterial biofilms are not homogeneous. They're very heterogeneous. They have different areas of high concentrations of certain biomolecules. And using imaging specifically, it's been really cool to visualize the distribution of different metabolites throughout bacterial colonies. And having the timsTOF flex, we're able to also do plenty of LCMS experiments using the ESI source as well. So a lot of my work has been targeted imaging experiments as well as, untargeted metabolomics experiments using the LCMS.
I love that you said quorum sensing. You actually just took me back to my graduate school days. There was a plenary speaker who was talking about this.
Oh,
And
nice.
one of the things that she said that has always stuck with me is when you have that bag of spinach or that tub of lettuce and it gets kind of icky, that's bacteria talking to each other. It's quorum
Yeah,
sensing.
that's true. That's very true.
Too funny.
Yeah.
So tell me how you've enjoyed getting to use different modalities of mass spectrometry. You brought up imaging, you brought up LC. These are really different.
Yeah, it's been a learning curve for sure. I'd say imaging is my personal favorite. It's really fun. It's through learning the sample prep to, actually running the experiments themselves and learning how different settings on the MALDI can alter our results. It's been really a really fun time. The ESI is definitely more, I would say, I mean, there's a lot more settings to change on the LC ESI side of things. So that's definitely been a learning curve for me because I didn't really have any LCMS experiment or experience in undergrad. Uh, but it's been really fun and like very useful to learn those skills throughout graduate school. So.
Okay, so let's keep with that. How have you found your own mission in this process and with the research that you're doing? Does anything stick out to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I, throughout my process in grad school, I've had a lot of opportunities to do side projects as well as studying my normal squid vibrio system. And throughout all of that time, I've realized I really, really love chemical ecology, and obviously mass spectrometry as well, and how it kind of plays into the chemical ecology sphere. I actually attended this year a Gordon Research Conference in marine natural products, and that was a really eye-opening experience for me in terms of my career path, what I want to do, um, and where I want to go with things in the future. So that was great.
Yeah, and you bring up, the career path. You're in the midst of that huge undertaking. So, how are you managing the demands on yourself and how you navigate that process?
Yeah, it's not easy. I definitely think I want to go towards a career in chemical ecology research, particularly uh, tenure track faculty position. I'm thinking less R1, maybe more R2. I really, really value mentorship and learning, and I think it's really important to the process of getting science done. So that's kind of where I think I'm heading career wise. How I'm managing that. That's a fun question. I mean, I'm basically just trying to grow my network as large as I possibly can. I love talking, as we can see. That's why I'm here. So, I love having conversations with, every type of person in science, faculty, grad students, undergrads, staff scientists, you know, folks in industry as well. It's like, we're all here trying to reach the same goal. So it's important that we all, work together, and that's how we get stuff done.
That's fantastic. I love that attitude. And yeah, that's why you're here.
True.
So, what do you do in your off hours to maintain some balance in your life?
I really like playing soccer. Um, Played soccer my whole life throughout college and everything. And that's been kind of my main uh, area of, you know, like basically getting away from work. I recently tore my ACL a couple years ago, and I'm still like in the process of rehab. So I've taken up just going to the gym, rock climbing as well. Basically anything to get me active and outside, especially living in Santa Cruz. It's so beautiful here. In the ocean, the mountains, the redwoods. It's sunny today and almost 70 degrees. So I can't complain about having that in December.
All right. And then I'm going to date myself here, but I'm Gen X. You're Gen Z. I think, the way that we got to where we are is very different. So maybe you could speak to that generational divide, and how you approach things, because I'm sure it's different than how my generation does.
Yeah, do you mind elaborating a little bit on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I came up through things, it was you put in 120% every single day. And that hard work is what's going to get you through and allow you to move on. And then the idea of work life balance, I still struggle with that. And, you may have the same issues, but I struggle with it in the way of I prioritize work when maybe I don't want to. And to get out of that loop is really hard. So I'm just kind of curious, you personally, and then you with other people in your generation, if you see it differently.
Yeah, I think I do for sure. I think once again my ADHD has like strongly affected my productivity and my ability to, you know, get stuff done, but also be okay with not being productive maybe one day. Um, I, grew up having, you know, people tell me, oh, you're lazy if you're not doing anything, you're lazy if you're not working. So I do still struggle with, if I'm not being productive, I struggle with allowing myself to have a break, and to not be productive. And at the same time, I, also struggle with being too productive and, kind of burning myself out. So I would say, it's been a learning process throughout graduate school. Um, I kind of have these ups and downs of productivity over relatively long periods of time, actually. So I, have a few months where I'm grinding every day. I'm getting a lot of data, getting a lot of stuff done. I'm writing nonstop and I work way over my hours. And then I have other weeks or months where I just can't get myself to do much. And I think being there is is very interesting from both my perspective and then also from like a boss perspective. Um, like the times are changing, and sometimes if we're not being as productive as we want to, whether we like to admit it or not, we can't really control that. And we kind of just have to allow ourselves to exist where we're able to. So,
You're so wise for one who's still coming up through your processes and your education.
thank you.
Yeah. It's just funny. I mean, talking to a grad student and then reflecting back on my own, um, it was different. And again, I think COVID has a big impact in how we look at things.
Oh yeah. I mean, during COVID, I was able to reflect on a lot of these things and, able to kind of learn more about myself in that way too. Because I always used to be, productive, 90% of the time just because I had to force myself to go there. And it was really detrimental for my mental health, honestly. Um, and I'm just glad to exist in a world and with a great boss and a great department who is actually really supportive in that way. So,
Yeah, Laura is great. Good to give her a
oh,
shout
she
out.
rocks. Yeah, she rocks.
Thank you so much, Allyson, for giving us the nice conversation and the nice perspective on how you got to where you are and maybe some of our differences. So appreciate you taking the time to chat.
For sure. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been great catching up and chatting about a lot of stuff that definitely needs to be talked about. So,
Awesome. Thank you.
thank you.
Oftentimes, when we've talked with our guests, we've seen how a diverse path gets them to where they are succeeding. Even with a graduate student, never fear, your path is still going to get you to a fantastic place.